Hi there. So today what we're going to be doing is getting ready to connect to our database, and we're going to set up a configuration locally to be able to do that in our ASP.NET Core REST server that we're building. And to keep this video short, I'm probably going to not do the persistence code that actually goes and gets the data from the database in this one, but we'll do another video really soon that has that in it as well. So to start with, we want to go up to Azure and grab our database connection string. If you're using a local database, you'll want to go get the connection string for that. So if I go up here, here is the connection string that I want to use. And ASP.NET Core is different than a regular ASP.NET application in that we do our configuration differently. There is an appsettings.json file out there. I've done a video on JSON if you want to know a little bit more about it. But we want to look at this appsettings.json file, and this is where we're going to actually store our database connection string. So right here, there's a keyword called connection strings, just like there is in regular ASP.NET. And inside that, we are going to have the keyword localDB. Now remember that we're setting this up locally, but when it runs on Azure, it's going to use the key that we establish up there, and that will keep all of our database connections secure and our connection strings secure. So there's the connection string itself. And we need a comma before this. And then what I'm going to do is just start on the next line, like that. This is just a little formatting we're doing. Okay, so all I've done is copy the connection string down here under a category called connection strings with an item called localDB in it. So that's the name value pair that we'll be looking for in the configuration. Okay, so we've got that. Now we're going to go ahead and modify startup.cs. So we're going to use something called dependency injection. Dependency injection is something that's used, it's a common pattern that's used for things that are commonly needed across your code base. So if you had, for example, if you were doing logging and you wanted to have access to logging features, you certainly could open the log file and have the log file configuration in every place that you needed to actually do the logging. But one of the advantages of one of the things that we use dependency injection for is it's a way to basically have that logging function injected into all of your code, and then you can just utilize it. Similar thing with a database connection. We need database connections in various places in our code. So rather than repeat it over and over again, we will use dependency injection to do that. And we're actually going to use something that's known in the Microsoft world as Constructor injection. But to do that, let's just jump over here and set up our configuration. So in startup.cs, under configure services, this method will get called by the runtime, and we use this method to add services to the container, it says. So this is how we're going to do the injection itself. And we're going to do that by saying services.add singleton. And what we're going to be adding is a configuration. like this. Okay, so essentially what that says is that we can have certain controllers that if in their constructor they look for an I configuration, that this will inject the configuration into that class. So this is the injection part, and then we'll look at the other side on how we actually put that together. Okay. So this is the first part. There's different options. There's add singletons, and there's some other options, and I'm not going to go into the details of dependency injection. We might do a different video just on dependency injection in C#. But for right now, this is what you'll need for the configuration. So services.add singleton, and with the I configuration and configuration there set up. Okay, with that, let's go back over to our address labels controller, and we're going to create a constructor. Remember, this is constructor injection. So what we're going to do is create a local variable to hold, or local data member to hold the configuration. Like that. And then we're gonna, let's do that again. We'll do it like this. We'll notice that we have an underscore, a red underline on this, and that's because it wants us to have this Microsoft extensions configuration. So the way I resolved that is I did a right click on this, quick actions and refactoring, and just selected that. And it'll add that up here for us. So we need that. And then we'll just declare our constructor. So remember, a constructor in C# is just the name of the class itself. Like this. And then what it will be looking for is an I configuration. So this is so we're injecting through the constructor parameters is what we're doing. Like this. And all we're going to do is just set the local data member equal to the thing that's passed into us. Okay. Like that. Okay, so with that then allows us to use this local data member underscore configuration any place that we might need to use configuration items. And what that means is I can read anything out of this appsettings.json file. And we're going to use it to get the connection string. So again, setting up the connection string in the appsettings.json, don't forget the comma here that you have to prepend that with. Then in startup CS, in the config services method, you'll do add singleton and tell it what you're going to inject, which is a configuration. And then in your class now this won't work for any class. It's specifically for the controllers in this case. It has to be a controller in order for the dependency injection to work. And so it will go ahead and pass the configuration on through, right? And so what we're going to do is just test this out. So right here, I'm just going to declare a string. So this is throwaway code. I'm just going to show you that it's actually working. And we will do it by saying configuration dot get connection string. And which connection string are we looking for? We're looking for the one that was labeled local DB. Okay, so with all that scaffolding code in place and that code put in place, it's going to go read connection strings for us. and pull out the one that's called local DB and return this value. That's what we would expect to see. And I've just added this on the get, so we're just going to go ahead and run this really quick so you can see it. While that's starting up, I'll get Postman running. Assuming we don't have any errors. So we're building right now. Postman's coming up. We're also going to be adding a view over here in SQL Server. So a view, if you don't know, is a way to basically take a query or a set of queries. In our case, we're going to join 3 tables together. And we're going to have that in the view. Okay, so we're still waiting for this to come up. Here it goes. So the application's coming up. I'm going to set a breakpoint right here so that we can see this. So let's see, did it come up? It still says it's starting, so we'll give it just a second here. I don't know that it's all the way up yet. It should come up and tell us. Run the values controller real quick. So we'll give it a moment to start. Again, we're going to be adding a new view over here. So here's an example of one. View get all categories. If I do select, they act like tables essentially. But under the covers, you can have multiple tables being used to create the result set. And that's exactly what they did in this one. If we were to go look at this, there's actually a SQL statement in here that you'll be able to see. So all of this code right here will return a result set, and so that's why we like using views. All right, let's see. Postman's up. Our program's up. So what we want to do is grab localhost right here. And we just want to go get address labels. That's where we put that code. Okay, so I set a breakpoint here. The whole reason I ran Postman was just to exercise this code. So I should see the connection string, and sure enough, I do. If I hover over that, you'll notice that the connection string's there. You'll also notice your password and the password and username's not in here. Azure doesn't put that in, so I'll be putting that in later. Okay. All right, great. So that worked. So now let's add our view really quick, and then that'll be it for this video. So let's do the view. So what we need is we need a view that will join tables together. And so what I'm going to do is use one of these as a template for a create. So it's going to use the database, and it's going to create the view under this schema, and we're going to call it address labels. And I'm going to delete everything down to the go down here, and we are just going to type this in really quick. So select. We're going to be joining 3 tables together. First one is sales, LT is the schema, customer. This is where the data is coming from, right? Actually, let me do this just so that we can get the IntelliSense working. So I'm going to say select star from sales, LT, customer. So we're getting it from sales LT customer. And here's all the fields we're going to use. Sales LT, we're going to return back the customer ID. From the customer table, we're also going to include the title. The first name, and I'm going to do some copy and paste here to abbreviate this. I'm going to pause the video while I type all this in so that it's not quite so tedious, because you can just freeze the video once I get it typed in, or pause it. So hang on just one moment. Okay, so here's all the fields from the two. Actually, we're going to join 3 tables, but we're only going to use fields from 2 of the tables, the customer table and the address table. And then we need to join these tables together, so this is the way we do that. The join table that we need to use is called customer address. That's the table that joins the customer and the address table together. I got a typo there. Probably have more than one typo in here, truth be known. So essentially what we have here, if we can just open these tables up again, we did the database diagram before, but just to show you, here's the customer table, and it has a unique ID on it, or a primary key called customer ID. Then we have the customer address table, and it has a customer ID and an address ID on it. So we need to join the customer table to the customer address ID, or to the customer address table, and then we're going to join from the customer address table back to the address table, which is here, and you'll notice it has an address ID on it. So we'll now join the other table in here. So we're going to inner join address. Oops. Address ID is equal to sales address ID. All right, that's it. That'll do the trick for us, and we can test this in SQL Server Management Studio by highlighting that and hitting execute, and it is bringing back the data that we expect. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and run this create statement, and the way I'll do that is not highlight anything, or I could highlight everything and hit execute. I should now have a new view. So over here, if I refresh the views, I should see a new view out there called address labels. And now, when I do a query, I can do this. Select star from sales lt dot v address labels. Now I'm using the view, and inside the view we do the select and the join across the 3 tables. So now this looks just like a table, or acts just like a table. I can filter on it. I can say where, and we'll use this customer ID is equal to 30023. I execute that, I just get that one row. So a view is a way to abstract the complexity of joining tables together in a relational database. We don't use a view to update any data in the database. It's just a read-only mechanism. And we will be using this to go ahead and actually pull the data back into our REST service. So hopefully this has been useful for you. We've learned how to do a view in SQL. We've also learned how to use dependency injection to get our configuration working in our controllers. Please make sure that you like the videos if you do like them, and also I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. I do a new video every 1 to 2 weeks, and so that will be your opportunity to keep up with what we're doing. And as you've seen, ASP.NET Core is a little bit different than regular ASP.NET. So as you saw with how we had to deal with configuration today. So in any case, thanks for watching, and I hope this was useful for you. Thanks.